Hey, what's up? This is Harry Wagner from Harry's Situations, and today I'm here with my friend Lucas Mandic and his 1981 Ford Bronco. Now, you might notice this has Super Duty axles underneath it. What you can't see is it also has a 7.3 liter Godzilla engine under the hood. So we're going to talk about that in a minute, but there's a whole lot more features and backstory to this Bronco that we need to get to before we even get to the engine component. So Lucas, tell me, how long have you owned this Bronco?
So I've had this Bronco for about 13 years now. It's been about daily driver up until about a year ago when I threw a rod in the straight six 300 I had in it originally. But until that point, it's been the daily driver. It's been my only car, and I've driven it through college and through all my jobs and work and on all my trips and stuff, and it's been a great truck, so yeah.
And so that was the impetus to do an engine swap then, was when you threw a rod?
It was. Up until that point, my motto on this thing is if it's not broke, you don't need to fix it. So for all those years, if you turn that key and it gets you to your destination and there's no problems, then why would you mess with something, right? So until that point, I didn't really have a reason to. But when I did throw that rod, it was really a tough decision between investing that money in older technology and then going with something more modern, right? So I had to do a little bit of homework, and I didn't know that the Godzilla was an option. So that kind of caught my attention at that point. So here we are, yeah.
So if we walk it back a bit, I noticed you have Super Duty axles under this. You have a solid axle. You got rid of the TTB. When did you make that change, and what motivated you to do that?
So that was about 3 years ago. Again, the beams worked great. They never left me stranded. They'd done everything I asked them to do. I had a posi in the rear with 35-inch tires, and that combo was great. I mean, for a kid that was in college, when I put that lift kit on, it did everything without a problem. And I got to a point where I always wanted, I know it sounds kind of funny, but I wanted the look, right? Got the solid axle, you got the big beefy tie rod. It just has a certain 4x4 look to it, right? And honestly, I got a lot of my inspiration coming from Junior Mint, from your Toyota, because the front of that grille, just with how that bumper was up and tapered, it just had the look, right? I mean, that thing was in a lot of magazines, so something kind of caught my attention. And then the leaf springs, that was a big decision. So most people tend to think that's going backwards, right? You're taking these coil springs, these shocks, this independent suspension, and you're putting a solid axle with leaf springs. But there's a lot of tricks and a lot of little things that I did on this to make it a really drivable, usable truck, right? And I've been very happy with it. I've put maybe 10,000 miles on it. It's been about 4 years now. And the way that it drives, the way that it steers, the way that it tracks, I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's been my experience as well, is I think there's a certain simplicity to it. I know you put a lot of miles on this thing. You just drove up earlier this week from Southern California all the way up here. We're near Pyramid Lake in Northern Nevada, where you're out fishing with your family.
Yep.
And you know, that's covering a lot of ground, so there's something to be said for simplicity, right? You're living out of this thing this week.
Absolutely, and it's almost 600 miles, so you know, it's one thing to go camping an hour from home, but when you're camping 10 hours from home, that's you got to make sure your truck is not only capable, but it's reliable, and it has enough room and do all the things you need to do. So I'd say the way that this truck is right now has been a product of just using it, you know, whether that be on the road or camping out of it or wheeling or whatever, you know, once you do something and you figure out you need to modify it or change it and you do that, it kind of, in a sense, it builds itself. You know, you could have a truck on jack stands and have all these ideas and spend a lot of time thinking about it, but if you go use it, you figure out what you need to do a lot quicker.
And that's the fun part too, right?
Absolutely. So, as long as you're not breaking things catastrophically and you're left stranded. But again, that's the nature of our hobby and what we do. So you just try to have those things happen as little as possible, but you know, that's part of the game. So it's all fun though.
In my experience, leaf springs cost less, and I think they're kind of hard to screw up. I think in general, they work pretty well. I think that like coilovers or coils and links have the potential to either offer more travel or a smoother ride, but there's a lot more involved there. I think it's easier to mess up link geometry. I see a lot of people and they'll just do it based on packaging. Oh, I had a body mount here, so I put the coil mount here, or I put the control arm mount, and it's like, that may or may not be the right spot.
Totally.
But you know, a lot of times we do things based on packaging or convenience, and then the end result a lot of times is worse, I find, than leaf springs.
I do agree, and I've heard people doing that same thing, and then they say, oh, I'm not going to use all that travel, so the geometry doesn't matter that much. And again, that's kind of interesting if you're going to go through all this effort and money and building something, but you're not building it right. So that's kind of interesting. But the leaf springs, surprisingly, they were a little bit deceiving. They were a little bit more work than you would expect because it's a domino effect. Right. If you have a leaf pack that is, you know, an inch thick and you want a progressive pack with a bunch of leaves, that pack's going to get a lot thicker, which is going to change your shock mounts, which is going to change your ride height, which is going to change your track bar. Everything is changed. So on this one, if you set it up perfect the first time, leaf springs are great. But if you set it up and now you want to have a pack that's twice the thickness, you have to change 3 or 4 other things around it. So that's where now, after doing the motor swap and stuff, I have a little bit more power. I'm at a 2-road here where, do I want to invest the money in the leaf springs because it does work well, or do I really want to just start fresh and kind of redo the whole front end? And, you know, at that point, you're kind of doing the same amount of work for either option. So it's interesting. And that was something that when I originally built it, you know, I'm not a fabricator. I don't do this by trade. So I kind of had to do a lot of the homework myself so I can save money. You know, when your truck's in someone's shop, you're paying for that.
Yeah.
So if you can do a little bit of that homework, you know, outside of before it gets taken apart, you know, it might make it smoother. Which this did go fairly well, but there were a few hiccups. And again, like I said, instead of just fixing the angle of your track bar to match something, now you got to change a few other things around that, you know. So it was interesting. This is on this front leaf spring front end, I actually am running a track bar, which is a little bit different than most leaf springs are. So there was a little bit more work involved into packaging that.
But Ford, on Super Duties, like these axles came out of, Ford used a track bar with leaf springs on those, right?
They did, which is why I decided to run one, because full-size Ford, you know, big heavy trucks, big heavy axles.
So what leaf springs are you running up front?
So these leaf springs are actually stock rear Bronco springs, and I used them in the front, but I flipped them around so that the back of the spring is facing forwards. So I had a couple reasons I did that. One, I thought they were really available. You can find them in any junkyard, any Craigslist ad, anywhere in the country. You can go find a main leaf and throw it in the back of the truck for 25 bucks. And then also the center hole for the leaf spring perch is an inch forward. So it moved my axle forward and gave me a little bit better approach angle. So with the leaf spring, one of your downfalls is obviously, depending on how you build your hangers, is going to be your approach angle, right? So I really wanted to keep everything up as tall as I could and package it just real close and tight together. So yeah, they ended up working great. They're really soft. I am a little bit worried about breaking a main leaf, but the good thing is I don't have a ton of up travel and they don't get too unhappy, so they're working good for now. But
yeah, I feel like that negative, if you go from positive arch to negative arch, I feel like that's,
yeah, really, it's testing them, and they're living in negative arch right now. So we'll see. But they've done. It's been 4 years, so you know.
Again, though, Ford trucks came with negative arch leaf springs from the factory, right?
They did, and you see a lot of older F-150s with a bunch of cement blocks that those aren't breaking leaf springs. So you know, so for now they're working for now. So yeah, definitely.
Moving that center pin forward too kind of gives you more clearance at the firewall for bigger tires. I know you're running the 37-inch Nitto Trail Grapplers. This video is actually brought to you by Nitto, so if you like what we're doing here, please like this video, subscribe to the Driving Line channel so you don't miss any more future videos like this. You talked about putting 38-inch Nitto Trail Grapplers on this when you were building it. What made you decide on the 37s?
You know, this is a whole different truck than I owned a year ago this time. So the build changes. So before I had 120 horsepower. You want low gears. You want a double transfer case or a Magnum box or something like that, and you want big tires, right? And now driving the truck around, I have enough power to where that 1 inch of tire isn't going to make too much of a difference in a positive way. It will force me to have to do more trimming. I'll have to package things a bit differently, but everything works well with the 37s, and it's really fun to drive on the street. I mean, you could go do burnouts with this thing, and it's, you know, so it's, I think right now what I'm gonna do is keep the 37s. They've been a great tire. They fit the truck, and it's wheelbase really well. And then maybe do some shave kits down the road, and that way I get a little bit more clearance on my axle, and I can keep my 37s. So, and another reason also is I have a full-size spare underneath my sleeping platform. Okay. So when you're sleeping in your truck for a week, every inch matters. So a 38-inch spare is going to raise your platform a lot more. So again, you just use your truck, and there's a lot of little domino effects that you find out. So yeah, but I've been real happy. They've been great tires. I've been a lot of highway miles and had them out at a Moab and had them out here in the rocks and around here Pyramid, and they've been real great. So I'm happy with them. Nice.
And I dig the retro styling. You know, I think we see a lot of stuff these days that's sort of over accessorized. I like the minimalist. I love the white steel wheels. I like the sliding rear windows. That's something you don't see on many Broncos.
You don't. The windows were, I would say, out of everything on this truck, the windows get the most compliments or questions. Yeah, if everyone's like, where'd you get those? Or I've never seen those on a Bronco. And they're one of those funny things that Ford did. They made them from 80 to 84, and they weren't included on a trim package, but you had to special order them. So it's if you can find one of those, you know, it's a real tough item to find for these Broncos. But when the dog's in the back, when you're camping and you slide the windows open, I think they're great. And on the steel wheels, it's funny you said that about the white wheels. So 80 and 81 are the only 2 years that if you ordered white wheels from Ford, they came in a Wimbledon white off-white color. So this truck was ordered as a custom base model, stripper, just a real plain truck. He ordered white wheels, and so when I put the 8-lug, when I put the 1-tons on, I've looked for a steel wheel and I painted them the same factory color because I wanted it to look the same. So it's cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people will walk up and be like, you know, it looks stock, but then I counted 3 extra lug nuts on there. So it's kind of cool. So it's cool that you notice that, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try to keep it looking stock, you know. It's kind of a sleeper right now, so it's kind of fun.
And then did you re-gear the axles or add lockers when you had the 300 inline 6 engine, and is the gearing appropriate now with the new drivetrain?
So I got very lucky. I did re-gear. When I did the 1-tons, I did 430 gears.
Okay.
It just was a good middle ground. I didn't have overdrive at the time with the stock 4-speed, and it just gave that 300 good power. And it was a factory ring and pinion set. So it was kind of, you can go to the dealership and grab it and stuff like that. So it's easy. Ironically, Super Duties are offered with either 373s or 430s. Okay. So this being 430 gears right now, I'm essentially running like what a 2022 Super Duty would be off the lot. So the transmission, the motor, everything is very similar to what a factory truck would be. So I'm happy with it. It did great on the highway. I was about 1,500 RPMs at 65. And, you know, it's got a 4-to-1 first gear, so it does real good just without having an extra transfer case or a Magnum box. And yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and keep them. And as far as I have a factory rear locker that I installed. Again, I was an open diff, and they were $400 from the factory for a Sterling 10.5, and I thought, why not? You know, I just needed 12 volts of power on and the ground, and it's been working great for 4 years, so it's been good. So I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I feel like those are one of the best kept secrets out there when it comes to locking differentials. You can get a selectable locker from Ford for $400.
You get all the pigtails and all the little pass-through wires. I mean, everything just from the dealership. I got it in a box, you know, and like I said, it's been great. The magnet mechanism seems to work real good, and yeah, just one switch on and off. So that was a good upgrade. So now I just have to figure out what I want to do in the front. So it's open right now. I was going to put a locker in there, but with so much torque to the wheels, you just got to worry about braking stuff. So I don't know if I want to keep that front end locked all the time. So I don't know yet. I'm still up in the air on that. Maybe a true track, but then you can't have a truly open differential if you're driving on the highway on the snow. So again, it's just how you use your truck. You know, it's interesting. So yeah.
So I'm sure everyone wants to know about the engine swap. We don't see a lot of Godzilla engines. Did you consider an LS swap?
I did not. I honestly can say I never for a second considered an LS swap. I just would rather keep it all one name, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, so it just, like I said, until I threw that rod in the 300, I really didn't know that this was a possible thing. And so I started doing a little Google search, and I started seeing that Ford offered a control pack. You know, they were able to mate up the 6R80. I mean, all these pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. So, you know, as I started looking into it more, I was like, wow, this is going to work, and this is going to work. And yeah, we're at a point now where I would say it's probably within the last year, all the parts have been available to actually make this swap doable.
Did you consider a Coyote engine? I feel like Coyote swaps are popular, or more popular than Godzilla swaps. No, just because I'm not familiar enough with an overhead cam, and it wasn't something that I really had a desire to relearn how to do. Sure.
You know, work around, modify, maintain, all these things. So that was one reason. The second reason was that they don't fit as well in here. They're really wide, they're really tall, they just, you got to cut your cross member, and it can be done, but it's just not as good of a package.
Sure. And why not get more torque, more displacement in something that's packaged better?
It's a truck motor. This Coyote is a car motor. So when you have a truck curve and it's designed to be pulling things and moving heavy trucks and heavy loads, that's what this motor is designed to do. So it was a good fit. So I was, yeah, and like you said, that torque curve. I've had a few friends that have driven Coyote Swap trucks, and there's no doubt that they're great rigs and stuff like that. But I have heard that they are a little lazy off the bottom. So they say horsepower keeps you going, but torque gets you going. So there's when you push the pedal down on this thing, you're back in your seat. So I'm very happy that I went with this motor, this pushrod V8 over that overhead cam for sure.
So you mentioned packaging earlier when we were talking about the Godzilla relative to the Coyote motor, and this thing fits great in here. I mean, you could put half of your camping gear underneath the hood. You have more room in the front of your engine bay than I have in the back of my Wrangler.
It's funny, you could, and you also could very easily fit a really big coilover under there, which the guys with Coyotes are kind of having an issue because a lot of the available shock hoops aren't clearing the Coyote. So, like you said, it's a pushrod V8 that was kind of the shape and the size were designed off of the 460. So if that motor came in these trucks, why wouldn't this one fit? Yeah. So the packaging was very good as far as side to side. It is a very tall motor. So the one issue we did have was the stock truck manifold comes out at a 45-degree angle. So you do have a lot of hood clearances. So with cars, with this generation Bronco, it was a little more tricky. Whereas like a dent side or high boy, stuff like that, it's no problem. You could run the factory stuff. So whether it was a good or a bad thing, it forced us to have to buy the Ford Performance low profile intake. So that was a part that Ford offered for this crate motor that used that intake points obviously the intake straight forward, and then it uses a Shelby, a 92 millimeter throttle body. So that was designed to use the MAF sensor and all that same stuff from the control pack, but it just allowed for a little bit better packaging. So it's kind of cool that Ford, they designed this motor, they sold it as a crate motor. You can order it from their website. And then not only that, but all these parts are designed to swap it into other cars, right? I mean, we use the manifold, I use the Ford control pack as far as the ECU and all the wiring. I mean, this is essentially a truck that came off a dealership lot underneath. So, for my mentality was to keep it diagnosable and keep it, very, very OEM. So I didn't have to be pulling things apart and opening harnesses to find something, so. Sure. Yeah, it paid off because everything is working very, very well so far and very smooth. So I'm very happy with it.
And what did you have to do with the fuel system to support the engine?
So the fuel system's actually stock late 90s Bronco. Tank, the sending assembly and all that is all just factory stuff. I used, the good thing about this is you can use a lot of Fox Body Mustang guys running these high horsepower motors. They have all the fuel stuff dialed. So I ran a Walbro fuel pump in the tank, and yeah, just a 33-gallon Bronco tank, and all that stuff's factory. So that was really easy. The Ford control pack had all the directions for hooking up your fuel pump, hooking up your ignition switches, and all that. I mean, it was a very understandable, very easy setup. I mean, it's incredible. So.
And is this the original master and booster? Did those work with the new axles, or is that Super Duty parts?
So this is something I probably should have done when I did the one-ton swap. Yeah, I did. Before I just had the stock brake stuff, which was a single diaphragm, a stock cylinder. But this is a brake booster off of a 1981 F350, which is dual diaphragm. And then this is a master cylinder off of a 2002 Ford Lightning. So it's interesting. Again, we're staying forward here, but it's all over the map. I got little pieces from everywhere. So, yeah, this is a 1/4-inch bore, so it's going to push out more fluid, and then obviously have a little bit more of that vacuum stored for to be available right away with the dual diaphragm. So this did make a big difference as far as stopping. I'm glad I did that because before I couldn't go fast enough to stop, but now I had that problem. So yeah, so this has been a good thing, real easy to do. So yeah, that was plug and play. Cooling system is a stock 80 to 84 Bronco radiator, just welded on the 1-inch inlet outlet to match the Godzilla. And then actually used 2011 Ford Explorer radiator hose for both the upper and the lower radiator hose. So again, you want to be able to fix this thing. If you're off on the trail or you're out of town, how are you going to be able to fix this really custom, cool, 5 different fitting pieces, this radiator hose, and you can't. So you spend some time, you look at pictures, and this thing looked like the perfect shape, and you trimmed it down, and now I got one hose to carry for both spares, so it's pretty cool.
What do you say at the parts store when they ask you year, make, model, Lucas? This is what I want to know.
So that was tricky because for stuff this new, you're supposed to have a VIN number.
Ah.
So it was a little tricky. I did try to walk in there and buy a few parts and they didn't let me. So then you got to go to some of the Ford dealers that buy third party and sell. And then of course you don't have a warranty with that. But yeah, it was funny. Learning how to navigate the Ford's part system for new trucks is not as easy. I would say that's more difficult than most of the other planning was for the whole rig. So, but yeah, they're all there. You know, stock factory alternator, factory mechanical fan clutch and mechanical fan. So all that stuff just came from the dealership. So,
and now you mentioned that it's backed by a 6-speed. I think in the new trucks, right, the Godzilla comes with a 10-speed behind it. Did you consider that? Was that a drivetrain length issue, or what made you go with the 6-speed?
The length was an issue. That 10 speed is really long. They come in a long wheelbase Super Duty. It just wouldn't work as well in the Broncos. A lot of guys are putting them in their high boys and their F-250s and stuff like that, and they're really happy with them. The bonus is you can run the Ford control pack for the computer, for the transmission, and the engine. Okay. So that's a big positive, right? But I've just also heard so many good things about the 6R80. It's been out a lot longer. There's a lot of control packs for them. There's a lot of aftermarket support. The first gear is super low. I mean, you know, it's kind of checked all the boxes. You can get them from a junkyard. I got mine from a junkyard with 40,000 miles on it from an F-150 that had a Coyote in it. So, you know, it just, and the packaging too, like you said, my drivetrain actually ended up being like 6 inches shorter after the swap, which is crazy because, you know, I only have an 108-inch wheelbase. So it made a big difference. So I actually created some problems of being too short. So it's good to know. I could fit a Magnum or a doubler in there depending on what guys are doing with this build. So it's good to know.
What transfer case are you running?
I'm running a 205 from a 78, 79, 205. It's proven, it's reliable. Steel cut gears. His name is Todd of his T's Cases. He rebuilds these 205s and he does a great job. So he did a bunch of things in this to have it handle the horsepower, handle the torque, some billet, some like retaining pieces and some covers and stuff. And like I said, he thought that there would be no problem that that transfer case would hold up here. So kind of interesting though, because you have this modern motor, modern transmission, then you have this transfer case from the 70s.
Sure.
So it's interesting, but yeah, I had him an adapter machine to fit that. And it bolts up right to the 6R80, and yeah, it's a pretty good package altogether.
Nice.
And I did do twin sticks on the 205. Okay. Just while I had it all apart, it's like everybody advised me to do that. Why not have control of both axles separately? So sure. Yeah, that was an easy upgrade and kind of nice to have an extra. I lost a stick and I gained one.
There you go.
There you go. So I haven't had a ton of dirt miles on it yet, mostly highway because I want to get things dialed, but just a little bit that I have done. It works really well. Coming from a manual, you hear a lot of the controversy between, oh, manual's better for wheeling, automatic's better. And as I'm learning this, there's so many variables, right? There's the torque converter, there's the amount of power you're putting out, there's all how your suspension's set up. So it's actually making my life easier to just kind of let this truck work and crawl and then just kind of stop it with the brake when I need to. Whereas before, I mean, you know, you have a carbureted straight 6, a 4-speed, low gears. It was not easy to drive that truck on the trail. Yeah. So just right now, I've kind of like I said, just kind of one foot's just kind of hanging out, and you get to kind of steer and control the speed. So it seems like it's working real well. So I'm really happy with how it drives on the dirt. And the highway, I mean, if you close your eyes, if you were blindfolded, you'd think you were putting a brand new truck. I mean, with what it does on the freeway and how it shifts and how you can pass traffic. I mean, it's a modern truck. It's so incredible how it's just, you know, it looks so, it feels old, but it drives like a new truck. So it's cool. It's very cool.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you've realized there's more to life than just LS swaps and TTV. Do you think it makes more sense to invest your money in an old proven platform or buy a new vehicle? Comment below and let me know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching this Hairy Situations video on the Driving Line channel. Driving Line has all sorts of great content creators, and they're dropping new content almost daily. You're definitely going to want to subscribe so you don't miss any of it in the future. We'll see you out on the trail.